I'm Christian Palotie. I'm the head coach at Lahti Basketball in Finland, and I do the play-by-play here for NBA games for Finnish TV.
Palauttaa pallon Currylle. Curry, kolmonen! Älä nyt viiti!
As well as the Finnish national team and other major events like the Olympics. My first NBA Finals was 2014, so 10 years ago. That also, from a coach's perspective, was a really big finals in terms of how they played and how San Antonio played, in particular the beautiful game Spurs. That game 5, the avalanche that they had there to knock off Miami completely, which culminated in that Patty Mills pull-up 3. That's one of my favorite moments. But I got to be honest, this past Olympic semifinal, Team USA versus Serbia, that was probably the best or highest level game I've done. But the final with Steph hitting those threes at the end, that's got to go up top. But there's a bunch of awesome games. The Finnish national team has a tendency of, if they're playing against poor competition, they make it tight by playing badly. If they're playing against better competition, they play better, so they play up or down to the level of the team. So they tend to be nail biters. And there's been so many that it's tough to pick one, but I'm sure those that I mentioned are in the top 5 at least. When I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, we had basketball occasionally in PE. And I kind of always liked it, but the friends in my class felt like, no, it's a dorky sport, like don't play it. Then I moved to the States and to Los Angeles, which was in 1998, where Kobe and Shaq were just about to hit their dynasty peak. And although I had like a mini basket in my own room, and I pretended I was either Jordan or Pippen, and if I missed a shot, I was Rodman, but that was kind of the catalyst for me, like, hey, basketball is pretty awesome. And after that, I begged my parents to get us an NBA TV subscription, and I got really caught up in the history of the game. But then kind of coaching almost came by accident. I started coaching under 16-year-old boys in 2011, and really fell in love with the process after that. But I was a big soccer fan as well for a long while, but that kind of dropped out, and felt like I found my true calling. For those in the States, there are the top level European leagues, Spain, France, Germany, Turkey, Italy, the Adriatic. Then there's kind of the 2nd tier of leagues, Poland, Romania, leagues like that. And I think Finland is kind of in the 3rd tier, which is actually not bad at all. Every league is different from one another with the rules of, for example, how many import players you can have. In the Finnish top league, you can have 4. Usually they are American players, because actually in Finland there's a tax rule that if U.S. people or workers who have U.S. passports work in Finland and earn less than a certain amount of money, you don't have to pay taxes on those, but immediately once they break that threshold, you have to pay it. So not only are there more American basketball players available than other nationalities, but there's also an extra incentive to have American players. So I think that's one thing that's very different from other leagues. But I would also add that I think the coaching is very good and kind of varying from team to team. Is it perfect? No. Is it in any league? Probably not. But I think that's something that Finland has taken major steps in. And they really put an effort in improving their coaches, and they have long coaching courses that you take in basketball that the Finnish Basketball Federation does. And I think that's something that's given Finnish basketball a slight, I don't want to say competitive edge, but an ability to stay with the top pack, for example, with the Finnish national team, to be able to compete against the top countries from a country of just 5 million people. And like you said, from a country where basketball is not the most followed sport compared to like hockey, for example. So I think that's one, but it's also a team game. And I think there's a lot of things where kind of the Finnish mindset does serve in sports like basketball, for example. There's a certain level of unselfishness and team first attitude. But you're lucky that you're in Utah, because your best player is very much from that type of mindset where it's team first attitude. So, but he kind of, not only is he the best player, but I feel like he also has a very kind of stereotypically Finnish mindset about him. So it's kind of works that way.
What's that Finnish mindset?
So traditionally, it's been you get what you deserve, and hard work pays off, and like I said, team first mindset. There's also a long history of feeling like the underdogs, but I think we've gotten rid of that in many sports actually, because it used to be like a self-given fact that even if we're beating Sweden in hockey, we're going to lose at the end. But that has changed. Also in basketball, I think in the past 10 to 15 years or so. That doesn't mean that teenagers today aren't similar to teenagers in the US or any other country where there is with the social media age, which brings kind of new opportunities and challenges for everybody, where that hasn't shaped the persona of the youth here in good and bad. And it's a more globalized world, so it's harder and harder to pinpoint the different kind of stereotypical tendencies of people like it probably was 15, 20 years ago. But still, from a macro perspective, I'm sure there's a larger group of when you have enough Finns together, there you'll find more similarities between them, just like with any other country. And there are a lot of things that I feel like work well in a team sport environment, but I'm sure every country, which might be different types of characteristics, but they can use those and channel those into success in sports. I'm sure he's already inspired a generation and is inspiring consistently with how he's breaking the ceiling of what we thought a Finnish player could be. Previously, we only had one Finnish-born player in the NBA. Then in Hanno Möttölä, and then Eric Murphy is a Finnish national and played with the Bulls for a couple of years. But to have an NBA All-Star and a guy who, maybe not last season, but the season before, was battling for an All-NBA spot had he not gotten injured, it's unbelievable. And I'm fairly certain we'll have a second Finnish NBA player in 2 years, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have more in the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully, that we don't have to wait as long as we did from the early 2000s until Markkanen got drafted in 2017. So
does that get you excited?
Well, of course. I mean, and I think the fact that there are more and more kids that are interested in basketball, and I feel like the coaching's better, and I feel like the understanding of where the game is going and what are the physical demands of the game at the top level, either in Europe or if you're lucky enough to play in the NBA or even the NCAA, that there's very few reasons not to be excited. Absolutely. I want to see how far we can push this, but it's a lottery win from a country this small to find a player as good as Lauri Markkanen, and his career is not going to last 30 years, unfortunately. So at some point, somebody has to take his spot, because a single individual still has it's a team sport, but there's only one ball, only 5 players on the court. It's a small court, so if you don't have a player who reaches his level, it's going to be hard to compensate for that. The Finnish national team, the Susijengi brand, actually came in the kind of mid-2000s, and it wasn't until 2011 when Finland made its first Eurobasket since, I think, 1995, where kind of this current formation of the Finnish national team took place, and it really quickly gathered a really large following in Eurobaskets in 2011, 2013, at the World Cup in 2014. The Finnish fans have really, traveled with the team wherever they go, and it's been one of the highlights of, not only that particular summer, but whatever tournament cycle there is. Finns are not always the most enthusiastic or the loudest fans, and especially if you watch like top level basketball or the top league here. I don't want to say they're the loudest. You compare them to Southern Europe, it's a joke compared to like the amount of noise they make. But something about the Finnish national team in basketball has gathered kind of the masses to really follow. That also applies to hockey and to European football, or global football, I should say. But But yeah, Susi Jengi has gathered a following, and the games there, or the games that they play, whether it's home or away, at least in major tournaments, I guess qualifiers away aren't that spectacular showings, but still the people travel with the team. It's a big thing. I don't want to compare it to things outside of sport, but still it's definitely important, and it's really important for the team as well, and that I think. You don't really get paid for playing for a national team, and that's why some NBA players have occasionally skipped tournaments, but it's a big honor to play for your country, but it's also a big honor to play for a fan base that's that dedicated. The fact that he's, I think, very different from most of the other players in the league, like he does most of his work without the ball, like I don't know, winger version of Steph Curry. He's not the shooter that Curry is, or definitely not the on-ball talent that Curry is, but he's 7 feet and athletic and still really, really efficient with every single one of his touches. Yeah, I think that's really pleasant to hear, even though I don't think any of us are sure the timelines are going to match with Markkanen's career and when Utah's going to be battling. I mean, eventually it's going to happen, but when they're going to be battling for top seeds in the Western Conference, hopefully that happens sooner than later, and hopefully that happens with Markkanen. But I think the fact that when he did get traded just prior to Eurobasket from the Cavs, who were a young up-and-coming team, and he seemed like he was part of that identity in that big front line, I think something also snapped in him where he's still himself, but he's not as, I don't know what the word is, but he doesn't take others into consideration as much as he's stepping on other people's toes, for example, when taking shots, when taking a role. And the fact that he's so unselfish at heart and as a person, but now he has this mean streak about him too, I think that's a really cool combination to see, and something that he's learned to tap into. And obviously the fact that he played really well at Eurobasket, and the Jazz coaching staff saw how he was utilized and they used a lot of those actions. I think that speaks volumes to how adaptable the Jazz as an organization and Will Hardy's coaching staff is as well. And I think it says a lot where he signed the extension not on the day where he was extension eligible, but the fact that he wanted to stay in Utah the entire year and not have his family moved. Yeah. He's a country kid.
Those kids who are wanting to get into basketball here, like, do you have any advice for them?
I wish one piece of advice would be, okay, now you're done. Now you just go do what you do. Find a passion kind of with if you really want to get good, you have to love the grind, and it can't be easy. If it feels easy in practice or in games, you're not playing at the top, at the level where you should be playing, and you're stagnating your own growth. I think that's something that many potential basketball players and athletes in general probably don't realize, and I'm not talking about like 12-year-olds, like that's not the point, but when you're 14, 15 and you're getting to that age, that you have to start making decisions, and hopefully you're playing multiple sports until then, because that really helps you out going forward. But at that moment, like, decisions have to be made that, are you improving as much daily as you really want to, and is this something you want to dedicate yourself to? And that means sacrificing from your social life, especially because you have to make room for education and family as well. So, but if that means you're not hanging out with your friends all the time as you normally would, then that's kind of the sacrifice you have to make. And yeah, I think this was a little more long-winded than I wanted to be, but long story short, enjoy the grind and make sure it's challenging enough for you. So, like I said, I started coaching in 2011. I'm from Helsinki, and my home club, I guess I should say, Sykki. I coached there and then in the neighboring city until 2016. And I took over a men's team in 2015, or maybe it was until 2017 anyway. Then I jumped to Kaarina, which is next to Turku, which is kind of the third largest suburb of our metropolis in Finland. Hopped into a second league team, and we had a goal of reaching the top league in 4 years. We managed to do that in 1 year. I was still young as a coach, and I guess I'm not too much older, but inexperienced as a coach. And there was some financial trouble with the team as well. So that story ended during COVID year. I was let go by the club, and the club went bankrupt in a year. And then I was out of coaching, other than like helping out, some teams here and there. But I was out of coaching until last year, and then I jumped to Lahti as an assistant. Then the season did not go well, and the head coach was let go 10 days prior to the end of this, or 10 games prior to the end of the season. We played all right in the final 10 games, but it wasn't enough to salvage a spot in the top league, so we were relegated, and now we're trying to climb back up. But this club has existed from 2015, and it was built on the remains of another team that went bankrupt here, who had won the Finnish title only a couple of years earlier. And it's by a few very, very dedicated people who feel like basketball belongs in Lahti. And Lahti is a kind of they call it the Chicago of Finland. The city has street cred in it. It's kind of hip-hop oriented in many ways, and I think that's also shown in the branding of the new club that was formed 9 years ago, Lahti Basketball. And the town or the city, they breathe sports. It's a real sports city, and basketball has been a big part of the city for years and years, and they deserve a top-level club, and that's what we're hoping to build toward. And compared to other places where I've been, the level of dedication that the people have here who work here every day or volunteer for game days or whatever, it's pretty special from standard of what normally happens in Finland. And even in a club setting like this, where, having been in the U.S. or lived there for 4 years, and until COVID, I went back pretty much every year. And when Markkanen was drafted, I was at Summer League and kind of saw kind of behind the scenes as well, where they have those coaching clinics and management clinics and stuff like that. And it's so in a positive way as well. I use the term cutthroat, but I don't mean that only in a bad way, where people are really looking to make a mark and get ahead, and the competition is unbelievably tough. And it's not even close to the level of that when you're talking about advancing as a coach or wanting to be, part of a club in whatever facet you want to be at. If you're dedicated and you want to be a part of the club, you just jump on board pretty much here. And it's just not the same thing in the U.S. But whereas in the U.S. on occasion, like if you're not ready for that kind of cutthroat mentality, pull somebody's chair out underneath if they're not holding on to it. You may not be for that particular job, but here there's very little of that. It's about what can I do, and not really expecting much in return, which is very different. But I guess it also, in some ways, states that this is still not the level of a professional league it's a pro league, but it's not at the level of the top leagues where it is more of a cutthroat mentality and real privilege, to be a part of from the outside looking in. But I think that's where kind of the unselfishness comes in again from the people that work in this club, or I want to say almost any other club, where people are there because they want to be there. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, we'll get that done. No problem. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
try to find out.